How's it going, everybody? And welcome to the Fourth and Long podcast with Alec Picado on Monday, September 23rd. Today's show, we will be going over my upset picks for week 5 and my game picks for week 5 with a little bit of a twist on game picks. We have added Conference USA to our game picks. But let's get started here. As you see bottom of the screen, I have our records for upset picks, game picks, and picks against the spread. I'm just going to put it frank, we struggled again with our picks against the spread. We had a subpar week for game picks. We went 18-12. It was 19-12. But we're going to start with our upset picks for week 5. Here they are. My first upset is Louisiana, plus 2.5 to upset Wake Forest. Now, don't get me wrong. I think this upset is going to happen for one reason. Wake Forest is not particularly the best team in the ACC this year. So therefore, I think there's a shot that this upset does happen and we see Wake Forest get beat. My number 2 upset, I'm going back to the well again with Purdue. I did it last week. I believe it was last week, and they got beat. I'm doing it again. Give me Purdue plus 10 to upset Nebraska. Now, I don't think this upset happens, but you never know. It is college football. Weird things happen. Oh, and also on today's show, I will be giving you my top 25 for week 5. But back to the upset picks. So, and then my last upset pick is Western Michigan plus 5.5 to upset Marshall. Marshall is probably the worst team in the Sun Belt, and I can see Western Michigan upsetting them. Now, here are my picks against the spread. Give me a second. I should have done this before the show. My picks against the spread are as follows. My first one is NIU, Northern Illinois. Let me see here. Yep, that's it. That's the rankings. We will get to my college football rankings in a minute. But I have Northern Illinois plus 7 to cover against North Carolina State. North Carolina State looked horrendous against Clemson. And that's a Clemson offense that was struggling mightily the week before last week. So I would take these. Right now it's at 7. I would take that bet and put it as a lean toward Northern Illinois to not only cover, but also outright win. Oh, correction. I had 4 upset picks. My other upset pick is UAB plus 3.5 to upset Navy. This one I also think does happen, and I have to give a sincere apology to Tony Graham. Your score prediction was really close. Miami did almost shut out USF. And I will talk about that in another video and how disgusted I am with USF. But back to my picks against the spread. My second pick against the spread is South Florida plus 6.5 to cover against Tulane. First conference game for USF. I think they cover this spread, and I think they beat Tulane. Tulane doesn't really. I'm not enthused with Tulane at all. I think USF covers this easy, and they win. Next, we've got Colorado plus 14, so plus 2 touchdowns to cover against UCF. This game, Colorado is not the one on upset alert here. If there is to be an upset, it is UCF. But I think Colorado, the way I've seen them play the last couple weeks, I like how Colorado's been playing. I think they can cover this easily. My next cover pick is North Carolina plus 3 to cover against Duke. North Carolina is not going to be a happy bunch. I don't know if y'all saw the final score of their game against James Madison, but they got beat. It looked like a basketball score. 70-50. James Madison beat them. And I will humbly take the L there because we picked North Carolina last week to beat James Madison. But I think UNC bounces back this week and covers the spread against Duke. My next cover pick is Sam Houston plus 8 to cover against Texas State. I think Texas State is a good team, but we underestimated Sam Houston. I think Sam Houston's a good team too, and I think there's a chance that Sam Houston covers this spread. And my final cover pick from today is Arkansas plus 5 to cover against Texas A&M. I think Arkansas covers this, and I think you'll see later, I think you'll be surprised who I'm picking in this game. Now we get to my over-under picks. My first one is Arizona versus Utah. Now, the total sits at 61. Oh, correction. First over-under game is Mississippi State and Texas. And the total right now is 61.5. Give me over 61.5 points. I think both of these teams score at will. Arch Manning struggled to start last week, and then he got into rhythm. And I think that this game is going to be one of the higher scoring games of the week. My number 2 over-under pick on Monday for today is Arizona and Utah. And Arizona in the total right now sits at 51 points. 51. I like the over. Arizona's defense can't stop a nosebleed if they had to. There will be a lot of scoring in this game. I can't predict the final score, but I'm going to guess it's going to be very high scoring. And in my last over-under pick, and normally this is where I would do an under, but for today's show, I didn't see any unders that I liked. So I went with another over, and it's South Florida and Tulane. The total right now is 63 points. And you're going to tell me you think I'm going to take the under? Give me over 63 points. USF can score. The only question I have is what is the injury status of Byron Brown? Is Byron Brown going to be okay? Because if Byron Brown's going to be okay, then I feel a heck of a lot better about taking the over. And now, Here's my top 25 rankings for week number 5. At number 25, welcome to my rankings, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is 4-0 on the year, and I think they have found their QB. And it is Eli Holstein, the former Alabama quarterback. And Pat Narduzzi his job for the time being might be safe. At number 24 is Central Florida. They've got Colorado this week. I like what I've seen from KJ Jefferson so far, but can they keep up with Colorado and Travis Hunter? At number 23 is Arkansas. 3-1. I know I might get some slack in the comments for putting Arkansas in my rankings. It might be too premature, but we'll see. At number 22 is Arizona. Another team that started off the year 2-0, but then they had a bye week last week. They come out of their bye. They play Utah, and I think, like I said earlier, I think it's going to be a good game. Number 21, Michigan State. Jonathan Smith has these guys playing really good. I know they lost to Boston College. They're 3-1 on the year. Number 20, Cincinnati. Another team that I had no interest in ranking until they started playing really, really good. At number 19 is James Madison, the Dukes. James Madison, no Jordan McCloud, it seems no problem. Undefeated and ranked in my rankings. Number 19 was James Madison. Number 18 is Texas Tech. They're another team that's got a big game this week. And I think they can win that big game. Rutgers is at number 17. Rutgers has a tough test this week. They go to Washington on Friday night. And seeing as how Washington played in their first Big Ten game, I'm a little worried about Rutgers. And the fact that they may only last a week in my rankings. At number 16 is Iowa. 3-1. Their offense looks like it's much improved from last season. At number 15 is Nebraska. Nebraska had a tough loss at home against Illinois last Friday. I think they can bounce back this week. At number 14 is Southern California, USC. I think they're another team that can bounce back this week. They've got Wisconsin, and Wisconsin's dealing with a backup quarterback. Miller Moss picked apart that Michigan defense last week, and I think he's going to do it again this week against Wisconsin. At number 13, I have to give them credit. It is Michigan. And I get slacked on all the time for putting them lower in my rankings. But Michigan, right now they're one-dimensional. But, I mean, that might not be a bad thing. Because Alex Orji, and I talked about it on the show last week, how Alex Orji is... how he might open up the passing game. He only threw, I think, 10 passes against USC. He can't do that the whole season. Because when they get into the meat of their schedule, it's going to be harder. At number 12 is LSU. Another good win for LSU last week. And I think they're another team that could keep ascending the rankings and end up in the top 10 at some point. At number 11 is Louisville. 3-0. They beat the brakes off of Georgia Tech. And I think that Louisville is another team that can move up my rankings as well. And if you haven't seen how I do my rankings, it's interesting how I do them. If you win 2 games in a row, you win. If you win by more than 20, you move the number of spots you won the game by. And same thing with the lose. If you lose 2 in a row, you're out. If you lose by more than 10 points, you move down however many spots you lost. But at number 10 is Utah. And I said this last week. No Cam Rising, no problem. Isaac Wilson is a pretty good quarterback. And yes, that is the younger brother of current backup quarterback at Denver, Zach Wilson. And so now we get into my top 10. At number 9 is Kansas State. They got throttled by BYU, and I had to move them down. I didn't want to move down. I moved them down as where I felt they're still a top 10 team to me, but if they lose another game, they're probably out of my rankings. At number 8 is Tennessee. Tennessee put the beats on Oklahoma. And that explains why Oklahoma is not anywhere near my rankings. Georgia, I can't really say anything because they didn't have a game last week. Miami. I really underestimated Miami. They are a really good undefeated team. And I think they're a very, very... They got a very good chance at winning the ACC if Virginia Tech falters. Which, looking at it this week, guess who Virginia Tech plays on Friday night? They play Miami. And this would be a huge win for Va Tech if they can get it. I don't think they will, but you'll have to see who I picked in a few minutes. At number 5, Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin's got these boys ready for conference play, and I think Ole Miss is going to be a problem in the SEC. At number 3, Alabama. They had a bye week last week, just like Georgia. That is the big game this week is Georgia, Alabama, and me and my co-host will be talking about that game throughout the week on the podcast. At number 3 is Oregon. They also had a bye last week. They get UCLA this week. At number 2 is Ohio State. Ohio State looks like a serious national championship contender this year and Big Ten contender. I think Ohio State's going to win the Big Ten. And at number 1 is obviously Texas. And y'all can say, why is Georgia so low in your rankings? I'm afraid Georgia's going to lose a game. Another game. They will lose at least one game this year, maybe to Texas. But that's my top 25 for week number 5. Before we get to game picks, if you haven't already subscribed and you feel like you've learned something of value here, or you like the content I make on college football, be sure to subscribe. That is the way you become an MVP and get your upset picks for college football, your game picks, your play-by-play. What's the next play-by-play will be October 16th, Boston College, Virginia Tech. And you also get the NFL podcast as well. But now to my game picks. And we start in the SEC, and it's a lighter slate in the SEC this week. First game is Arkansas, Texas A&M. And I talked about this game a minute ago when I had my picks against the spread. I'm taking Arkansas, and I know I might get laughed at. And let me know in the comment section who you have winning the games I talk about. I'm taking Arkansas in this one because I feel like that A&M, they're a lucky undefeated team right now. They're lucky. Next, we've got Kentucky and Ole Miss. This isn't even a question. Give me Ole Miss. And I think Ole Miss is going to have this game over by half. Then you've got Mississippi State and Texas. Give me Texas. In a high-scoring shootout. Georgia, Alabama. Give me Georgia. But yeah, give me the Bulldogs. I think this is going to be low-scoring defensive battle. And then the last one is LSU and South Alabama. Give me LSU. Okay, next we get to the ACC, and we've got Holy Cross and Syracuse. Give me Syracuse and a laugher. I don't think it's going to be particularly close. Then we've got Friday night, we've got Virginia Tech and Miami. And a shocker here, I've got Virginia Tech. Any chance I get to pick against Miami, I'm going to do it. Then we've got Boston College and Western Kentucky. BC coming off a big win. They might be looking ahead. I'm still going to take Boston College. North Carolina State and Northern Illinois. I do like NIU to cover, but I think North Carolina State wins. So give me North Carolina State. Louisville and Notre Dame. Give me Louisville. Then we've got Louisiana and Wake Forest. Give me Wake Forest. UNC and Duke. Give me North Carolina. Clemson and Stanford. I don't think Stanford gets lucky twice. I think they get absolutely stomped by Clemson. And then we've got SMU and Florida State. Give me Florida State. Wait, no. Give me SMU. I don't think Florida State is winning another game this year. I really don't. Now we get to Conference USA. Western Kentucky and Boston College again. Give me Boston College. Liberty and App State. Give me Liberty. I am putting App State on upset alert again. I don't think they beat Liberty. Louisiana Tech, FIU. Give me Louisiana Tech. Kennesaw State and UT Martin. This would be very embarrassing for Kennesaw State if they lost. I don't think they will. Give me Kennesaw State. Memphis and Middle Tennessee State. It explains itself in the name. Mid. Give me Memphis. And New Mexico State, New Mexico. Give me New Mexico State. New Mexico's horrible. AAC, Thursday night, we've got Army and Temple. Give me Army by 100. Then we go to Saturday, South Florida and Tulane. Give me South Florida. Close game, but I think South Florida ends up winning. Navy and UAB. We never pick against the Air Force Academies. Give me against the Service Academies, correction. Give me Navy. FAU and Wagner. Again, this would be sad if FAU loses to Wagner. I don't think they will. Give me FAU. North Texas and Tulsa. Give me North Texas. Tulsa is one of the worst teams in the American. I think they lose to North Texas. Rice and Charlotte. I'll take Charlotte shouldn't lose to a school that's named after a food, but I think they're going to, and they're going to lose to Rice. Memphis and Middle Tennessee State. Give me Memphis. Now we get to the Big Ten, and we have Washington Friday night. You got Washington and Rutgers. I think this is going to be a competitive game. I think Rutgers somehow ends up winning it. Maybe a walk-off field goal. And then Saturday, we've got Maryland and Indiana. And I am taking Maryland in this game. Michigan, Minnesota. I'm sorry, Minnesota fans. You're not. I mean, I shouldn't say not. I think Michigan wins this game. But if they play sloppy, there's a really good opportunity for an upset here. But I think Michigan wins. You got Nebraska and Purdue. Now, Purdue is my upset pick, but my heart's wanting to go with Purdue, the Spoilermakers, but my brain is telling me to go in Nebraska. And I think Nebraska ends up winning this game. If an upset does happen, though, I wouldn't be surprised. Because Purdue is notorious for beating top 15 teams. USC and Southern Cal at home in its Big Ten home debut against Wisconsin. Give me Southern Cal and a blowout. And then you've got Ohio State, Michigan State. To me, this is the easiest pick of the week. Give me Ohio State by a million. And then we've got Illinois and Penn State. Give me Illinois. Give me Penn State. I think Illinois for a little bit will keep it close, but then they end up losing. And then you've got Oregon and UCLA. Give me Oregon. And the last bit of game picks is the Big 12, BYU and Baylor. Give me BYU off that big upset win over the University of Kansas State. Oklahoma State, Kansas State. And I'm taking Kansas State in a close game. I might regret this. I'm picking against Mike Gundy, and that's never a good thing to do. UCF and Colorado. Give me Colorado to beat UCF. TCU, Kansas. Give me Kansas at a close game to beat TCU. Iowa State, Houston. This game's not going to be close at all. Look what happened with Houston last week against Cincinnati. Didn't score a single touchdown or a single point. Give me Iowa State in a beating of Houston. Cincinnati and Texas Tech. Two teams ranked in my rankings. I am going Cincinnati here to pull the upset. And my last game pick is Arizona and Utah. Give me Utah to beat Arizona. And if you also didn't know that the Fourth and Long podcast has official merch. I'm not wearing it right now. I'm wearing my Ravens merch after the Ravens won yesterday. But if y'all think I should start posting YouTube shorts again of recaps of game picks or anything, let me know in the comments down below. Give me some of your game picks for this week as well. and some of your upsets in the comments below. But that's going to wrap up today's podcast, today's episode of the Fourth and Long podcast. I will see you back here with my co-host tomorrow night. I also have a video at 10 o'clock tonight on the NFL, giving you my upset picks, trade candidates, and much more on the NFL podcast tonight at 10 p.m.